field, and that's what I'm comfortable with. But then I also have this guy, which is a rounding hammer, and I use that to spread out the material after I have flattened it. So it has a little bit nicer surface on it. And the way the hammer works when you're actually using it is, depending on the shape of the face, the material will spread out in relationship to that. So for example, this is a cross peen, and when you're pushing the material down with it, it wants to squeeze out either side like that. And so that's kind of a similar thing with the horn of the anvil, which I will be using a lot, where I want the material to go either way, and I'm using this radius piece to make that happen quicker. Let's see. And so I'm making a brass spoon today. We're using 464 naval brass, which is an alloy that has copper, zinc, and tin in it. And I really like brass because it's a beautiful material, and you can get a really nice finish with it. And it's really fun to forge because it's softer than steel, so it really moves. But the caveat I was telling some of you earlier is that it will melt quicker because of the zinc in it, and it will work harden and craft quicker. So I'm going to try my best not to melt anything, but you never know. And I passed some pieces around that kind of show you the starting stock material, and the forged piece, and then the finished piece that I will do later in the close-up. Here we go. And so when I'm making a spoon, I'm usually kind of sectioning off the material like I would with forging anything. I'm trying to figure out what shape I want on one side and what shape I want on the other side. And so I'm going to start with the actual spoon bowl, and then go back to the handle, and then go back to the spoon bowl. And a lot of that has to do with how I'm holding it, what your tongs are capable of, what kind of shapes, and just having a secure hold on your piece while you're hammering it. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring the piece to the edge of the anvil and put a little taper on it. Because when you look at the shape of a spoon, the bowl tapers at the end, you know? And so when you're forging, you just want to kind of slowly get to that ultimate shape. So in order to do that, bringing it in just a little bit. I'm Rachel Kedinger, by the way. I grew up in Wisconsin.
Cheese!
Cheese! My buddy brought me cheese curds. I live in Philly now, so that was a real treat. I've been a lot of places, but right now I am in Philly. So I'm going to stick with that right now. It's just a slight taper, but I'm using the edge of the anvil and bringing the hammer down at an angle so that it has that kind of taper that I'm looking for. The next thing I'm going to do is section off the spoon bowl. So I'm going to bring the piece to the horn of the anvil, and like I was saying earlier, kind of using that as a cross peen, or another term is a puller, where you're really like separating the material in a soft curve. And it happens a lot quicker because it's like instead of just a flat face where you're pushing the material down over and over on a flat surface, it's pushing the material out either side. Oh, see? So that material is too hot, and it melted. So we'll try again. So that means that the zinc in it melted out.
Got the glasses on.
So to back up a little bit, yeah, I grew up in Wisconsin. I went to the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee for jewelry making. So I have like a small metals jewelry background. And my professor is here actually, Frankie Flood. He is this wonderful person, wonderful mentor, and he actually teaches at App State now for the metals department there, which is also a wonderful school. And so after there, I went and I worked for a few different people. I worked for a jeweler in Delaware. She owns a little gallery, so that was really great. Let's see, I don't want to melt it again either. So I'm kind of just bringing the material in to have this little ball at the end that's like an elongated shape for the spoon. And then I also lived in Detroit for 3 years, and I worked at a metalworking shop there named Smith Shop, and we did all sorts of things. That's where I learned blacksmithing. And so there was architectural ironwork, small metals, vessels, working with the community, teaching classes.
Sunny.
So you can kind of see how the piece is kind of moving in now. And so I don't want to make it too thin because of what happened earlier of melting, that part getting too hot. So I'm going to flip it around and start working on the handle and elongating the handle and forging that out. How many of you are from Spruce Pine? Anybody? And have any of you ever forged before? Done any forging? Sweet. Okay, great. So after Detroit, I moved to Penland, which is right up here on the hill. And I was accepted to this thing that they have called the Core Fellowship Program, where you're allowed to take classes for 2 years in exchange for working for the school. And so I got a lot more experience in forging and metalworking in general. And that really helped me combine my skills of jewelry making and blacksmithing. And that kind of brought me to this, like, traditionally, or a lot of times, brass is used in small metals and not often forged. It's more expensive than steel, and it has different workability. It's a little more finicky, but I really like it. So that's where I worked on that. But I also took classes in textiles and ceramics and printmaking, and just was allowed to woodworking, use all these other materials to inform the work that I make now. surface. I'm using this anvil instead of that one because I want to make sure that there's no steel deposit happening in my brass, because ultimately that's going to make it rust. So especially with non-ferrous, because I also forge copper as well, you really just want to make sure that your tools and the faces of them are clean and smooth. And I also want a really nice smooth finish on it, so that helps, because whatever you're using to hammer is going to impress into your material. And unlike steel, steel usually gets this kind of scale that builds up on it and flakes off eventually. Brass doesn't do that. It still has this dark scale on it, but it's much thinner and like much thinner, and you can just file it off or sand it off, and it will be back to that like bright brassy gold color. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Yeah, if you do, just let me know. Yeah, steel is much harder to forge physically because I'm a girl. No, but brass does have this quality that it's like, it really moves like butter, and it's so nice. And same with bronze and copper. And copper is pretty nice because it doesn't have that zinc in it, so it doesn't melt on you like that. You have to get a lot hotter for it to kind of fall apart. So I have this spoon handle that I'm forming. I'm going to flip it back around and kind of refine the neck. And when you're thinking about making a spoon or a utensil, it is functional, right? So you have to have a certain anatomy to it so that it has strength. And so there's a lot of like artistic different ways with how it looks, but also you have to think about the function. And the neck, you know, the neck that supports the spoon bowl has to have some strength or it's going to bend. So I'm thinking about that when I'm making utensils. There's also so many like historical references that I have researched about different kinds of utensils and kitchenware. And it's kind of fun to look at those and obviously take inspiration from that. I was recently doing some research. My friend really wanted me to make a spork, and I was like, okay, sure. But I looked into it and like I found this information about kind of, this is my interpretation, but like the original spork was this thing called a terrapin spoon, and it was for it was specifically for serving turtle.